Hi, I'm Tony, and today we're going to make a cute drawstring bag, also known as a dice bag, that is 6 inches wide by 8 inches tall, out of this really cute Sonic fabric that I found. For this project, you'll of course need your fabric that you want your dice bag to be made out of. I'm going to use a single fabric for both the inside and outside fabric, although you can use multiple fabrics. You can have a different fabric on the inside as you do the outside. If you do that, do twice as much for the cutting instructions that I'm going to give you. You also need a good pair of scissors. I have my Femore scissors, a zipper pull. This is actually a sweater pull. It's about $1. I got it at Walmart. You can find them online under sweater pulls. And you need your enclosure. You can use ribbon, cord, anything you like. I prefer macrame cord because macrame cord actually lets you keep the bags closed as you pull it. And of course, you need a good iron, an ironing surface. Oh, and your sewing machine. Can't forget your sewing machine and thread. And I like the 1/4 inch foot with guide. Let's cut our fabric. We want to cut our fabric 8 inches wide. We want to add an extra inch to either side of our measurements. So a 6 inch wide dice bag, it would be an 8 inch wide. So if you want to increase the width of your dice bag, you can have it any width you like. Just add 1 inch to your cut. With this method, 8 inches for the length is as long as we can go. Technically, that's not true. If you have 2 different fabrics, one for the inside, one for the outside, you theoretically could go as long as about 21 inches for your length for the dice bag. So this is just because I'm using the same exact fabric for both. All right, so let's cut this. I am first ironing to make sure my entire fabric has no wrinkles in there before I trim. Always iron before trimming. Now you notice I'm keeping my fold in there. It is because I am just going to trim off the edge here. And I'm trimming off the edge here. So I'm trimming off my fold, and then I'm trimming off my selvage. So you could have a longer dice bag if your width of fabric is longer than the standard. Then I want to sew this. So I'm going to sew 3 sides together. So we're going to take this and do right side to right side. And then I'll take this to my sewing machine. I'm sewing 3 edges. So I want to sew along this side with a 1/4 inch seam, along this side with a 1/4 inch seam, and then only one of the sides. So I'm either going to be sewing it this side or this side, and then bringing this back to show you the next step. All right, let's flip it and iron it. So I leave the one side open because we really don't have to. We really don't have to sew it closed at this point. So we're going to flip this, and then we're going to pop out these corners and then iron it. So when we iron it, do not iron over your hand. I repeat, do not iron over your hand. Now, I have little tiny hands, so I personally like the 6 inch finished wide because I can actually spread my hands in order to make sure that the seams are all the way ironed out. So I'm not ironing my hand. I'm moving my hand down, but I'm using this is what I'm doing on the inside as I'm spreading out my thumb and my fingers in order to have a nice wide stretch. And this way it's more efficient when I'm ironing it, and I don't have to keep an eye on either side as I'm ironing. Then we want to take the open side. So here's our open seam. We have a lovely little hole here. And whichever side I like, in this case I'm going to have this one, I'm going to fold it over about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch and iron this. Make sure it is at least 1/4 inch. So fold it over at least 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. And then we're going to fold it over about 2 inches and iron again. So what we've done is we've folded over this opening so that we don't have any raw edges sticking out, and then folded it over 2 inches. Then I'm going to turn this around. Now I don't have to fold this over here 1/4 inch because this is sewn. So I'm just going to fold this side over 2 inches. And then we just have to sew it. So I'll show you the sewing step. Now I've used my 1/4 inch foot with guide for whenever I sewed around the 3 edges. So I'm going to switch this to my J foot. I like the J foot for this step because it has an open, clear area right here so I can see what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to take a look at here. Now I've got this fold over right here, so I'm going to be sewing along this fold over right here. But I'm actually going to flip this so that I see the right side. So I've got to be really careful to line this up and feel my way as I go down to make sure that I'm still sewing what I want to sew. And the reason why I'm doing this side is because sometimes underneath I get bunching and nesting in this machine, especially at the very beginning and ends, because there's all these layers that it's sewing through. So if I get nesting underneath, I want it on the wrong side of the fabric where I cannot see what is happening. So if you purchase any of my dice bags, you may see nesting on the inside of it, but that's fine because you can't see it. So we're starting off with our scrap fabric as our leader, so that this way it locks in those edges. Now, sometimes right here, you really have to push it through to get it going and go slow to get it started. And then we're going to sew all the way down. Now, you can match your thread to this fabric if you like. A lot of times if I have green or purple fabric or something like that, I'll try to match my threads to my fabrics. In this case, it doesn't make a difference. I think the off-white looks fine. So let's sew all the way down. When I get to the edge, I'm going to free my scrap fabric and put it on the edge. Now I'm going to make sure I clear this all the way before putting in my scrap fabric and then trimming it. And let's see, did I get any nesting? No, I actually didn't get any nesting this time. Now you see it's kind of a little wonky because I couldn't really see what was happening, but that's fine. This is the wrong side. You're not going to see this. And this is the right side, and it's not as wonky. It's perfectly fine. All right, so let's sew the other side. Now this side, I don't have to worry about catching raw edges. I can just sew the edge. So in this case, same thing. I'm going to have it go all the way up, and I'm going to go slowly and push it through to make sure. There it goes. Because sometimes it doesn't catch on those feet, the feed dogs. So I have to push it to make sure it catches. All right, let's sew it all the way down. Notice how I'm taking my finger and I'm feeling where my edge right here is. So I know I'm sewing right along that edge to go all the way down. Now, this is the fun step. If you haven't figured out by now from my videos, when I say this is the fun part, that's normally the hardest part of the entire thing. All right, so what we want to do is take our 2 edges. You notice how we have created a hole. This is the hole that we have for our macrame cord to come through to have the pulling effect. So we don't want to sew over this hole. We don't want to seal this or else our macrame cord can't come through. So how we make sure that this doesn't get sealed is we take both sides. So I'm taking end to end and I'm putting it right side to right side and I'm lining it up here. Now, sometimes you'll notice that your edges here from this side to this side are not going to line up. If that happens, it just means that you didn't fold it over the same amount of space. And that's fine. It doesn't have to perfectly line up. So we're going to line this right side to right side. As you see, here's my bottom. And then I'm going to start sewing from the bottom. Okay, I'm not going to sew from the top. I'm going to start sewing from the bottom. All right, so we've got this folded over. So let's clear our scrap fabric. Now I'm going to start sewing. Use your fingers to feel where your edge is. Okay, so here inside of here you can feel your seam. So we want to sew just to the left of that seam. Okay, just to the left of the seam. We're not sewing over top of our extra fabric that's in here. We're sewing just to the left. And this is important because you don't want to put a whole bunch of strain on your sewing machine, especially if you don't have an industrial or a heavy-duty machine. And then we're going to go back. Let's hit our, whoops, sorry, I'm trying to like not show in the camera, have my arm block it. And then we're going to go forward. And then I'm going to go back again a couple of steps. And then I'll show you exactly where I stopped in a moment. And then let's lift up and lift our presser foot up and trim. Now, you notice I stopped right at this fold here. So I stopped sewing right there. On the other side, it didn't quite reach the fold. That's perfectly fine because our macrame cord in our holes is going to take care of that. As long as you secure this in so that these stitches are not going to come apart, that's all you need. So let's do this. And now we want to put in our scrap again because we did one side. So we have one side sewn, but not the other side. So now we have to sew the other side. Let's free our scrap. You're doing the same exact thing. We're lining it up just to the left of where we can feel this fabric in here. So you're going to need to feel as you're sewing. I'm going to free that so it's not in my way and line this up as you go. All right, now I can feel that as you see in the bottom, I've reached the bottom area. So I'm going to go ahead and back up a few stitches, go forward a few stitches, back up a few stitches, really locking in these stitches so that your thread is not going to come apart and your seams won't open, and trim away. So now we have our dice bag, and it is time to put our macrame cord in for the drawstring. Now our dice bag is still inside out. We still see the wrong side. Okay, this is the right side that's still right side to right side. I find it's a lot easier to string the dice bag when it's still showing the wrong side. So if you ever purchase a dice bag from me, you may get it in the mail inside out. So if you can see the seams, it's inside out. All right, so let's cut our pieces. This is my cheater piece that I actually keep. It is about 22.5 inches long. So you want to cut 2 pieces of your ribbon, shoelace, macrame cord, whatever you want, about 22.5 inches long. If you like long tails, cut it longer. But 22.5 is the minimum amount that it should be. And the way that you use the puller is you take the cord, you put it in this little loop right here. I actually used to feed these in using a safety pin, and trust me, this is so much easier. All right, you want to take your cord, put it in one side, and pull it through. Make sure you leave a little bit of an edge still hanging out. And then put it in the other side and pull it through. And then pull the cord off of the puller. Now you notice how you have 2 little pieces hanging out over here. Go ahead and tie these in a knot. Let me actually pull it a little bit tighter. just so I can work with this. And then I'm going to loosen this up so I can tie my cord just like that. And as you see, it has just a little bit of an end over here. So like I said, if you want to have a longer dangly bit that kind of hangs over, maybe if you're using ribbon and you want to curl it, you can have a longer length, but the 22.5 is the minimum. All right, so let's do the other side. Now, whatever side you are going into first is the side that this is going to hang out of. So we don't want to go in here again. We want to flip this over and go in the other side. So let's pull this, and then we're going to then go into the other one and pull it out. Okay, and let's make sure that everything is lined up. It is great. And tie this into a knot. Now, if you're using macrame cord, you only need a single knot. It will stay perfectly fine. If you're using any other kind of cording, so if you're using a shoelace, a ribbon, anything else that's not macrame cord, you will need to put in more than one knot. So a single knot is fine for this. Now, at this point, let's flip this the right way. And we have our dice bag or small drawstring bag. Now you can put all sorts of goodies in here, and whenever you are ready to seal it, you just pull it and it is sealed. And now we have a small drawstring bag, also known as a dice bag. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned how to make a small dice bag. Don't forget to like this video, follow my YouTube, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget about Twitch, where you can interact with me as I'm sewing live.